What is up? We are here for our Saturday night secret sermon. This is our late night, midnight study of sacred teachings. You can find Secret Teachings of Jesus playlist on my channel if you enjoy our material this evening. Basically, what we've been doing in that playlist, this is a weekly segment where we delve into the Gnostic Gospels and we really take it deep each week. The first gospel we covered a couple of years ago was the Secret Book of James. And then after that, we spent about a year and a half going deep into the Gospel of Philip. Each episode is taking one portion at a time. The last gospel we worked on was for several months. That was the Gospel of Mary. It was wonderful. And now we are in the Gospel of Thomas, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And so just a little bit of context. So, for instance, the Secret Book of James and the Gospel of Mary read sort of like the other Gospels. It was almost like theatrical in that, you know, there were people talking to one another. There were sort of like, it was like a scene playing out where there was a discussion happening. And then maybe like an event happening around the discussion. But really, so far in the Gnostic Gospels, this has been mostly about like the conversations and discussions that are expounding upon like topics. And even the events around them are sort of centered around the teachings so far from what we've covered. So the Secret Book of James and the Gospel of Mary were more like not event, but like conversation driven, like a scene or a dialogue. But the Gospel of Philip, it was like each portion, each segment was like this kind of cryptic bit of text that would give you these esoteric, symbolic, metaphysical, like messages and like mysteries and concepts to meditate on. And they were like a deeper teachings. And the Gospel of Thomas is a lot like that. The Gospel of Thomas is written by who they presume was Jesus's brother. There were theories in ancient Christianity, early Christianity, that Jesus had a twin brother named Judas Thomas. I mean, Jesus did have several siblings, and some of them were involved in the ministry, like his brother James. So Thomas, his brother, was the presumed author of the Gospel of Thomas. And so this gospel really focuses in specifically and exclusively on Jesus's teachings and sayings, the ideas that Jesus would share, not really any of the events or the miracles that Jesus performed or even Jesus's divinity or anything like that. These are just like quotes, like this is basically quotes that Jesus said, like as if someone had taken them down and kept like a list of them. So each of our episodes, we've been covering about 3 portions, and then usually during the week, something will remind me that like, oh yeah, I meant to talk about that, and then I'll go back and touch on one of the other sayings. But so just so far, so you have an idea of like what we're reading. The notes in the introduction to the Gospel of Thomas, which we did cover the introduction, so that will give you more of a literary basis of context of like when it was written and all that kind of stuff, backstory about the gospel itself. But just one of the literal notes, so that when you're reading this, it's written in the first person of Jesus being eternally in the present. Like Jesus is living, Jesus is eternal, so Jesus didn't say this back then, he says it now, even still. However, for the sake of the reading, the comfort of the reading, or however they decided to maybe put some things in past tense, maybe so it would be more comfortable. So when they say things like Jesus said, I guess it's to avoid confusing people with the concept that Jesus is still like is a living God, and that his spirit permeates and he's still alive and he still says these things. So just pointing that out. Okay. So before we go into, so tonight we're going to cover the Gospel of Thomas, portions 8, 9, and 10. Two, in the Gospel of Philip, each portion was like just large enough to have like a title. It like kind of, the title gave sort of the subject matter, but these are just basically statements, so they're just numbered. Okay, so there's one that we covered last week, and we touched upon it too the week before. And there was one specific concept that kept coming up, that kept slipping my mind to say it. So starting, this is in saying 5. Jesus said, "Know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed." Nothing hidden that will not be revealed. Now, we expounded upon this in a lot more length and depth last week, but basically I'm going to give the summation and touch back on the point that I meant to make. So what we're talking about here is Jesus saying, realize the purpose of your life, right? Wake up and realize that you're a soul and a body, and everything that's happening in your experience has been designed to play out in such a way like you're an active player in a game, and it's like choose your own adventure. And it's not exactly choose your own adventure because the plot points have already been predestined, but the way that we navigate through the game's levels are our free will, and that is where our soul is developed. That is where we do our soul correction and where we awaken that light of our soul. So every annoyance, every challenge, every ailment, every affliction, it's actually a blessing that helps show us the unactivated, unawakened, uncorrected parts that are still weighing us down. And basically it's like, hi, look, this is the assignment. Like, this is your purpose. Like, work on this. So when we awaken and we see that, then what has been hidden from us is revealed, because then we start, when we're not awake, we go through life and things happen to us and we're victimized and we're taking everything personally. And we're like caught up in the drama of the story. Right? We get lost in the soap opera. We forget that we're playing out a scene, we're reading off a teleprompter, and we get lost in the drama. And so we start taking it personally, and we start becoming reactive, and we start doing this and that, and changing our behavior based on what happened, and our thoughts start creating feelings, and our feelings start creating moods, and then we start building a grudge, and then I start casting judgment and condemnation, and I'm doing evil tongue now and evil eye, right? And you're just spiraling out of control, racking up spiritual credit card debt and tipping those cosmic scales. This is a scale back here. It's been tipping to the side of mercy lately, you guys. Yeah. So, we keep putting more negativity on our scale that we have to eventually work off. Whereas when we awaken, we start to realize the nature of the realm that we're in and the purpose it plays, and why things are happening. They're happening for a reason and with a purpose, even if it doesn't seem like it. And so when we start to become aware of that, we can say, oh, okay, wait, now I can be more self-realized and conscious while I'm navigating these things. And wow, okay, now I'm starting to see things with a little bit more context, and I can separate myself from the actual getting caught up in the feeling and the drama of it all, and I can observe and witness and even try to do that with less judgment even, and see the parts of myself that I was blind to, that I had blindsided before, right? Like it was in my blind spot and I didn't see that about myself. Like, oh wow, I didn't understand what manipulation was enough to actually realize that I have been manipulative or my behavior was manipulative, for example. Like maybe like you're unaware of something, like, oh, I wasn't aware that I was so insensitive about other people's feelings. It just didn't occur to me because that's what being insensitive is, right? And so it's like I'm starting to dawn on me now. Oh, the patterns in my life. Oh, I have a history of blowing up on people because I keep everything inside, and like then I have a temper, and I've held a grudge, and I've festering inside. Oh, that's a pattern. That's something that I've carried with me into this lifetime that I need to evolve. Oh, that's one of my assignments. Oh, I keep chasing after unavailable people, or I'm an avoidant, or, it's like you start seeing those things. What is hidden from you will be revealed. So Jesus said, no, sorry, I got a hair loose that's tickling my nose. Jesus said, know what is in front of your face. Like, realize the purpose of your life and the events in it are not random. They are actually here like an escape room for you to figure out and put the pieces together, right? They're here telling you something. So see what's in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed. And so once you start looking at life that way, you start seeing all kinds of hidden messages and patterns and the real meaning behind things. You start seeing below the subtext. You start reading between the lines. You can see way ahead of the other people when the politician is spouting bullshit. You're like, this is a lie, right? You're being placated and you're used as a pawn, right? And nobody's getting it. You're like, what? So you start waking up to things, and you start seeing things that other people aren't seeing. And it's maddening. Now, but really, like, the whole point is that we see these things about ourselves. That's what we really have control over. So we try to shift our consciousness, and we try to alchemize our own soul and do that work. Our soul, we're not assigned to come and change other people in any life. It's never our assignment. It's very tempting. It's very tempting. The only thing that we have control over and that we are expected to deliver results on is how we change our own soul, how we alchemize that with our time on earth. So, having said that, we have multiple lifetimes. That's the curse and the blessing of the human incarnation experience, is that you kind of fall into a sleep in the soul world, and you fall into this world, and you fall into this body. You wake up in basically what's a nightmare, but we think it's real life, and we get really attached to the nightmare. And we think that this is the ultimate reality, but it's just temporary reality. The other side is actually the big reality. And so we come here, we forget everything that we already knew before from all the other lives, and we forget that we're in a game with all the rules, and we have to eventually, like, that's part of the game, is like, when are you going to wake up and realize you're in the game? When are you going to wake up? Like, you're running, the time's ticking, daylight's burning, So you wake up, you realize you're in the game. And you do everything that you can in each life to try to work on your workbook for your soul. And then what you don't finish, or what you don't correct, or what you've probably mounted even more negativity and some crash outs and blowouts. So you have to come back again and do it again and try it again this time. And the characters are familiar because, yes, we've been in this soap opera many times together before. There's certain clusters of souls that are like soul families, and they come here and they might play different roles and relationship dynamics. Like, maybe in one life somebody's your friend, the other life they're your sibling or your mother, or like your mother in one life, and the next life you're the child or whatever. So we come again and again and again. So when it says, for nothing is hidden that will not be revealed, it means come hell or high water, it's going to be shown to you eventually in some lifetime. The big picture is that together, collectively, all of our souls are, like, we have the illusion of being individual and separate, but we're really part of like one big organism. We're one big soul that is splintered off into many like sub-souls. And so there is the individual tikkun of soul correction that we do through each of our lifetimes, and we carry that with us. We carry our soul through each lifetime. We just get a different body and a different personality and a different backstory in each life. But as a whole, as a collective, we have to do a collective soul, like the band. We have a collective soul, and we're doing a collective correction together, all of mankind as a group, and it's called the Tikkune Olam, and it is 6,000 years long. And so we have 6,000 years from the time that Adam and Eve fell in the garden, and then through the waves of generations that came, that went through the flood, and they went through the Tower of Babel, and then they went through the Egyptian slavery and the Exodus, and then they waited a long time, and then they got the Messiah who came to visit them, and be incarnate in the life of Jesus, and then Jesus died, and people were like, wait, I thought we were going to take over the government. We never did. And then Jesus is like, I'll be back eventually. And then people have been thinking that it's any minute ever since he left. So basically, you're like, okay, well, what if I never correct my full tikkun? And it's like, what about all these people that still seem so far behind? Because the clock is ticking, and we're narrowing down to that 6,000 years. And I mean, I think we still have a ways to go, but it's not going to be in this lifetime or anything. But now that's the maximum amount of time. If all of humankind did we suddenly became totally unified and totally shifted into Christ consciousness, then the Messiah era would start now. But we have up to 6,000 years. And by the end of the 6,000 years, if you still have shit that's still undone, it's gonna get done in that 6,000 years. It's gonna get corrected one way or another. And if it has to happen on Armageddon, well, it's not the best way to handle your affairs, but it's one way to do it. Okay, so that's why, right now, when they're we're going to bring Armageddon on. Okay, no one can do that. God does not negotiate with terrorists. We're not in a hostage situation. You're not, pushing God to do it your way. It's so funny. It's this is the exact storyline of Judas. And now they're doing it as a collective. But if anything, there were 3 times that humankind had accumulated so much negativity that they had to be destroyed. And the negativity started in post-garden, pre all the other characters that came in the Bible, but that is something that's more talked about in the mystical commentary. But basically, after Adam and Eve's fall, there was a 130-year period where Adam, when guys are I fucked up, so I'm going to go on a bender and fuck a bunch of people about it, feel guilty, and go on a total, bender of self-destruction. I already made a mistake, now I'm just going to ruin everything. Well, that's what Adam did. And he had a bunch of demon babies with, the Nephilim, and ended up producing all these, producing demon babies with a female demon or whatever. And so those were the souls that ended up being the group that had to go through these 3 huge purges historically before they could even become passable to not be destroyed. Okay, so we made it through the flood. And then we got a little bit of an upgrade because we were so despicable then. And then we were so despicable again in just sort of a different flavor of a way that the Tower of Babel happened. Kind of similar to the fall of Atlantis. We just got too big for our britches, too advanced with no consciousness, pushing our own will, trying to out God, all that stuff. So then after that, there was a period where those people were those same souls were on the flip side, the Egyptians at the time when Joseph was enslaved in Egypt, but then became the king. So they flipped the script, and so then they were the Egyptians. And then the next incarnation that they had, they were the Israelites who were enslaved by Egypt. And at that point, they were at their lowest low. And that's when the Exodus happened. God intervened, 10 plagues. They got to leave. And then the parting of the Red Sea, the wilderness, all that. That was very, very condensed. So, having said that, I could see humanity being at another sort of like culminating point where we are like, we need another sort of like extreme event. Like I felt like COVID was sort of like a slap on the wrist sort of thing like that. Because I predicted some big thing happening. I was like, there's a global event coming. Like people are too vapid. They're too consumer obsessed. They're too like empty. Like I just saw us going down such a golden calf road that I was like, shit's gonna go down. And shit started to go down, you know, but it wasn't enough. It tipped the scales a little bit. Like that's I think that we're always working with in humanity. It's like there's these cosmic scales and we're always teetering on the brink of oblivion. And it's like all the good work that we do on an individual level to actually transform our darkness and become more like Christ, it actually shifts the scale, right? So right now, like I'm a server, so like we, as servers, like we all like hold horrible grudges for the people that don't pull their weight and like make everybody else do all the work while they're, you know, avoiding the work. And that's basically what like the evil, horrible people that are all like in charge of the world right now. It's like all the good people of the world that are actually trying to make a difference. Like we're actually tipping the scale, but we're having to work constantly against people that are hell bent on destructing the world because they're pawns of the opponent. The opponent is sent here to constantly try to steal our light and keep us enslaved in darkness and destroy us, destroy the world. Like just like in a game, you have you and then you have an oppressor, an opponent, like trying to stop you, trying to kill you in many games, right? And just like this game of life. So Jesus said, know what is in front of your face. And what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed. So by the end of that 6,000 years, if we're bring us kicking, screaming, dragging us. But it's like, do you guys remember when like the used car lots would be like, bring it in, creaking and squeaking, and you know, they would like rattling, honking, like whatever condition, bring your old car. Like we're gonna be corrected eventually. The volume, the intensity keeps getting turned up. So you see this, like the obnoxious repetition of the same fucking thing happening to you over and over and over in your life. It's the hidden thing trying to be revealed. So like it would behoove you to say, pause. Let's slow down. Let's take it all in. Why is this in my movie? Why is this in my movie? And you know what? Sometimes you get that answer and you have a revelation and an insight kind of right off the bat. And then other times you're like, this is nuanced. I honestly can't understand what is the lesson here? What is the ask? Am I supposed to do this thing? Am I supposed to see it that way? Sometimes you can get insight based on your natal chart. So each sign has a set of on-brand tikkun for that astrological source of power and influence. So if you know like your major, like your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign, then those are, you know, three of the aspects that have a lot of the dominant effect on your personality and your day-to-day or your in and out. So thinking about those, and then there are specific Kabbalistic things listed according to each sign, but assuming that you don't have those writings to look into, which would be the Sefer Yetzirah, or there's books that are listed in the Kabbalah bookshop, the Kabbalah Center's bookshop about this, but I can't remember which ones they're entitled. But anything by the Kabbalah Center is usually very digestible, to where it's not just like this far out information. It's like you can apply it to real life. Like it's you can take it in, you can use it to transform yourself. So, but look, just read and learn about the signs themselves. Like, it doesn't go far off from that. It's just sometimes there's more nuance and like subtlety about the way that they focus on, or what they focus on about the signs. But read up on the signs, and you'll see like the signs, the challenges of the signs might be challenges that you struggle with. But basically, if you are, like, a rule of thumb is, we are born to this world with having a certain sort of like nature and constitution about us, things that come naturally and easy to us. And then there are things that are harder for us, and they don't come that naturally, or our tendency is otherwise. We don't want to come into this world and be sort of out of the box, ready to go, and then just stay that way forever. Even if we're just like a really good person and we don't have a lot of negativity that's obvious, like, we should get out of our comfort zone and expand our wheelhouse and try to do things that don't come naturally to us. So say you are the kind of person who naturally speaks out and speaks up and says it like it is and says what you think, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna say this. Like, your tikkun might be to try to have more humility, or take time before you bluntly speak out, or check your ego and your motives about things. Like, maybe, where are you coming from when you speak out, right? Where is that motivated? Where is that rooted from? Now, the opposite might be true for a person who is afraid of the consequences of what will happen when they speak up for themselves, or they're too shy, or they feel like they don't have anything important to say, so why would they say anything? They feel embarrassed, so they shrink themselves. That person's tikkun is to speak up and use their voice and set those boundaries and learn how to take up for themselves. Now, say you're a person who's very, very helpful and very, very sharing, and it is so easy for you to just give and give and give and give to everyone. Now, maybe that's coming from a healthy place, and maybe it's not. Maybe you need to feel validated by your giving. Maybe you feel that's how you buy people's love and approval. Maybe you're people pleasing. Maybe you're doing it for survival because you think that you have to. Or maybe, it's hard for you to sit back and receive, right? So maybe you're a person who's easily taken advantage of because of that. So maybe you have to learn how to hold some things in reserve, and like when to know like when you're sharing is truly sharing and when you're giving is taking, right? Sometimes when people are like big overgivers, it actually feels like they're taking and they're giving. Whereas a person that's like, it's hard for them to give, it's hard for them to share, then their tikkun is to put themselves out and share and do the thing that maybe like is hard for them. Give something even when you feel like it's tight, or make an effort when you're feeling lazy and you don't want to get involved, right? So it's basically pushing yourself to do the thing that doesn't come naturally or easy to you. Okay, so Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you, for there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed. All right, that was 5. Now we're going to skip down to 8 because we've already covered 6 and 7 in last week's episode. So, where are we now? And he said, humankind is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a fine, large fish. He threw all the little fish back into the sea, and with no difficulty chose the large fish. Whoever has ears to hear should hear. Now, when Jesus says whoever has ears to hear should hear, it's like whoever hears this and understand it, take it in. Really take this in. If you understand what I'm saying, put a pin in this. Write it down. Remember it for later. This is important. If you have ears to hear, understand this. Let it take root, expound upon it, discern this message, let it grow in you. Same for when you have eyes to see, then see. It's like when he's, saying that, he's like, please, if you holler at me, give me a witness. Like, is anything computing with you guys? Like, he's acknowledging that, like, okay, not everybody's gonna understand like the cryptic way that I present this information to you, but the information is so much bigger than words can really do it justice. So sometimes I have to give you a concept that allows you to like expound upon it in ways that words can't. Images, that's why sometimes symbols are so much more impactful, right? Okay, so let's read that again. And he said, he being Jesus, as in Jesus. Okay. So, and he said, humankind is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a fine, large fish. He threw all the little fish back into the sea and with no difficulty chose the large fish. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. So what is the large fish versus the little fish, right? You've got all these little fish, but they're not worth much. They're garbage. It's like, there's barely any meat there. It's not satisfying. It's not fulfilling. You could probably get some and like maybe, bread them in something and like fry them really crunchy and then but there's not a lot of sustenance. There's not a lot to them. You're not going to get a meal out of them. But when you catch a huge piece of salmon, you're like, wow, this is really going to fetch a handsome price in the market and it's going to make for a beautiful dinner. Lovely sushi. You could do some like smoked salmon fillets, skin on, right? You want the big fish. We can see, okay, having a bunch of crap fish, it's like you can have bulk garbage or you can have one nice thing. We see this in consumerism. We understand what it means when you're like, okay, now post-COVID, everything that's ever been manufactured or all the customer service has gone to shit. All the manufacturing is horrible. Everything is like a piece of garbage that breaks and has that same plug-in thing to the USB. It's like, why can't we just have regular like AC cables like we used to? It was so not annoying back then. Everything was better then. Everything sucks now. So yes, we would rather not like, okay, have you ever gotten in Temu by accident and they're like, spin the wheel. And then you get like a buy one, get one free prize. And you're like, oh, this is fun. And so then they want you to start like, you get into this weird thing with the cart where you can't just check out. They're like, spin the wheel again. And they're like, you have $5 to spend, but you've only been able to spend 3 of it and it's like, you're just collecting things in your cart that are like, well, I could have like a pack of 4 very tiny spatulas for $1. It's like weird. Nothing's the right size. Nothing's like sturdy. You're just like, okay, I don't even want like all of this stuff. It's garbage. It's just going to be consumer garbage that has taken all this energy and resources to make and manufacture. It's abused the world to put it in the world. It's a sin for it to even have been made. And now it's just going to go, it's going to be garbage. So we've abused the earth twice for this worthless garbage, right? So when you look at it in materialism and when you're thinking about what the money's worth, you're like, oh, I'd rather have one functioning appliance than like a whole bunch of pieces of crap that break and don't do anything, right? We can see it when it's like products. Jesus was the big fish. When he came with his new message, he's like, okay, guys, I know we've just been slaughtering animals with no real thought to it for like the last 1,000 or so years, but I have something even better. Concepts that will change your experience with life and who you are within it, and it will change your hearts and it will change the relationships we have with one another. This is hope. This has gusto. This has purpose. This has like human connection and dignity in it. And it's a real relationship with God, a direct relationship, not just this far out abstract idea that we slaughter an animal to appease, but like someone who can help us and love us and guide us to evolve and awaken the true essence of our being and help us remember the fullness of who we really are. Wow, that's better, right? But the people at the time, they were like having a hard time conceptualizing even the most basic things Jesus was saying. And what they were used to was a temple system that had, like, when the Torah was given to the Israelites, the Torah had it was like layered with encoded messaging to guide the soul along the Tikkune Olam, right? There was like this deep intrinsic wisdom that was there to be activated, and you could draw down miracles and connect directly to channel God's goodness and fulfillment through if you really embraced the Torah, kept the law, and understood it on not a surface level in a physical, mundane, straightforward, direct way, like reading it like an instruction manual, but like reading it like it's an encoded message that you have to decode and then apply. So it's when people like the sages say that a person who looks at the clothing of the Torah and thinks that is all and doesn't see the soul of the Torah is a fool. It's like looking at a person and thinking that you know them deeply because based on their outfit. It's like, oh, I know everything about this person. I've seen what they're wearing. So, but you don't see the soul of the person. You don't see all the backstory or their intentions or their ideas, right? We've all misjudged someone who we actually grew to love, and so there's so much more depth. And yet the takeaway from because this is what happens when authority isn't kept in check, it gets corrupted. And so over time, what was originally this pure thing that opened up this like miraculous experience for the Israelites, they fell back into their old ways. And over, the generations, the temple got more and more big. It became more and more about governance and control and the ecosystem that grew around the temple. And it just became like these people burdened with going to observe their festival days, but they were oppressed so many times that they got disconnected from the reason why those festival days were festival days. Like they disconnected from the deeper meaning or the deeper purpose of why they would have a religion to begin with. And they weren't really using it as a way to self-reflect and change, but they were just like, I don't know, like exchange, kind of like, okay, well, you provide for us and we'll send you these sacrifices and we'll appease you and you'll be blessed, we'll be blessed. And there's all these like, prophecies that good things are coming, but, I don't know, it's just like they were enslaved and disrupted so many times that the temple system just became about them trying to find a perfect, unmarked animal. Even like they're impoverished. They have like triple taxation they've got taxation for Rome, and they've got the temple tax and all this stuff. So it's like they spend half their time struggling to survive, and then in order to worship their God, they have to make these pilgrimages to the main temple. They have to like buy these perfect animals, then they have to have them sacrificed, and then it's like, it's so interesting because I'm on season 5 of watching The Chosen right now. And I really think that this show is like a spiritual masterpiece in the way that it really brings the pages, the words on the page to life. And you can really watch it and just see there's so much that you can see that's revealed just by watching the people, play these scenes out. And then just kind of the filling in of the story of like of what it would be like to travel in this ministry and actually carry that, what it would be like. And so in season 5, they've arrived in Jerusalem and it is Passover week. And so the city has been swarmed with more pilgrims than ever because they're all excited. They're like, Jesus is sure to be here. Like, we're so excited. He's going to be preaching in the streets and he's probably going to do something, signs and wonders. Like, everybody's all excited. Like, Jesus is like the total hype is like coming to like Beatlemania at this point. So they go and they're, some of the women in the group are going to the women's court and they're going to buy their doves or they either get pigeons or doves to sacrifice because women are already like perfectly corrected vessels. It's really and we're just like here doing tikkun for men. That's for real. It's not just me saying that. It's like, to Judaism and Kabbalah. So the women don't have to do as much. So the men, sometimes they have to get like full on like cows, depending on how sorry and awful they are. So anyway, the women, back to this. Sorry y'all. Sometimes I like to make it funny. So the women are going and they procured their birds. And so one of the women is in the characters in the show The Chosen. There's a little bit of difference between the scripture and the show The Chosen. They kind of like condense certain things and build it for story, but the truth remains the same. So this one woman who's a Gentile with the group, she's been with the group for most of the time. And then there is a woman who was in the audience at the teaching that Jesus gave where he fed the crowd of 5,000. And so she was one of the Gentile women who became a Christian that day. And so she came to meet up with the group for Passover, or just came to Passover, found the group. She's like, oh my God, like, I don't know how to celebrate Passover. Like, tell me what to do. Like, I want to worship God. I don't know how. So she's like, okay, come with me, girl. We'll get our sacrifice, So new woman who was at the feeding of the 5,000 is standing in line with the other Gentile woman who's like been with the group a little longer. And they're holding their birds and they're standing in line to take them to get sacrificed. It's like, you're not even doing your own sacrifice. Like, what is this? What effect is this having on anybody at this point? Like, what? It's just basically like these going to do these like acts, but like there's not like any like depth or reverence, or it's like there's no worship going on. It's just like they're standing in line, they bought their animal, they're bringing their animal, and then like they're literally having this conversation and they're like, so what do we do? Just like stand here and wait and then like give them our birds and tell them our name? Like, are they gonna even are they even gonna ask our name? Like, are they just gonna like, you can tell that they're like going through this in their mind. They're like, what are we even doing here? Like, what is this even doing for us? So then the culmination point in the scripture and in the show is that Jesus is like looking at the temple and how it's just become this like performative marketplace. And the real truth, the real hope and gospel that would liberate the people or help change the people or support the people or encourage the people or help the people, like there's no charity coming out of the temple. And it's like, and there's no real like warmth or love coming out of the temple. It's just like, bring us your shit, follow our rules. Like the Pharisees were like cops, like everybody's always in trouble. Like if you did anything wrong, you're gonna get stoned. Like not stoned, but like stoned to death. And so Jesus like goes into the temple to become a marketplace, and he takes a whip and he starts tearing up the joint. And he's like, rah, and he's like flipping tables and he's setting animals free. And he's like, no more of this. No more bought sacrifices. No more animals being slaughtered. He's like, what is this even doing? And then later, in another time, he calls the Pharisees out, and he's like, you're gatekeeping. You are shutting the people out of the temple, and you didn't even go in yourselves. Like, you're telling all these people to act these certain ways and pray these certain ways and believe these certain things, and you're not letting them in to the deeper wisdom and truth that you and all your educated erudites are expounding upon in secret, but you're not living by the principles. You're cherry picking what you're telling these people, that you're expecting them to just fall into line, bring them the animals, pay your dues, and get out. But like, you are gatekeeping my Father's truth. You are standing in the way of these people wanting to worship the Father and have their own relationship, and you yourself aren't even going in. You're nothing but whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, you'll look nice, but on the inside, you're nothing but dead people's bones and all kinds of rotten filth. And that's what he said to the Pharisees during the Passover festival. Yes. So this is what we're saying. It's like, look, do you guys want to continue on with this loveless process of buying animals that you didn't even raise? What's even at stake here? Like, yeah, it's costing you some money, but it's not like you poured into these animals. Like, the thing about when if you're in kind of the witchy inclination, or if you're a person who does like ritual and you're a mystic, you know that all the effort that you put in something and all that heart and all that intention, what you put in your garden, right? All that love and intention is in those vegetables. And when you harvest those vegetables and you cook with them, they taste better and they're more nourishing and they have more soul, and more light is revealed through them because you yourself have tended to them. It's not the same when you go to the grocery store and buy a tomato. It's flavorless. It's dead food. It's worthless. You don't have the same satisfaction even. It's not even fun. You're just like, well, this is a tomato, right? So at that point, it's like, what are you even doing? You're not even raising these animals, trying to take care of them, and like keeping yourself aware of why you're taking care of them, right? Over the year that you would tend to this lamb, you would be thinking, oh, what lamb in me am I tending to, right? That's the alchemist practice when they're working with the metals, when they're working with the materials, when they're making potions. They're working on themselves. They're thinking about the way that they are transforming, that they are seeking out their negativity and purging the impurities and sifting through to reveal pure gold, pure, precious treasure, right? So Jesus is not coming to eradicate the Jewish faith at this point. He's just coming to reform it and save it from its kind of neglect and a little bit of corruption that had steered it into the wrong direction. So Jesus is like, do you want a bunch of fish that aren't going to amount to a meal? They're not going to be satisfying. They're not going to be flavorful. They're going to be all bones and scales. Or do you want a big, giant, juicy salmon? Big old swordfish, right? Tuna, yum. Which sounds better? So where are we? So he said, humankind is like wise fishermen who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a fine large fish, and he threw all the little fish back into the sea and with no difficulty chose the large fish. Now, this is also applied to our consciousness and our belief systems. Do you want small, limited beliefs, limited thinking, a limited scope for the soul? Do you want to just come in and piddle around in life and that's it? Or do you want to have a deep, rich, vivid experience in life? Do you want to get to the root of all your shit? Do you want to pull out the greatest depths from within you and shine your greatest light? You know, do you want to challenge yourself to have a courageous and adventurous experience? Do you want to go deeper and have deeper understanding and the real meaning of the Torah and the festivals and the traditions and the rituals? Do you want to know what they really mean, what they're really for? Or do you just want to go through the motions and remember a historical event and understand it on a very surface level as just maybe like a history story, and then you're confused about what the takeaway is? Like, which fish do you want? Depth, truth, real change, transformation, actual redemption, or performative habit, ritual, socializing, culture? Flat. Nothing below it, nothing below the surface, right? Okay, so saying 9. Jesus said, "Look, the sower went out, took a handful of seeds and scattered them. Some fell on the road, and the birds came and pecked them up. Others fell on rock, and they did not take root in the soil and did not produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns, and they choked the seeds, and worms devoured them. And others fell on good soil and brought forth good crop. It yielded 60 per measure and 120 per measure." So the sower, Jesus, think of Jesus as the sower, and he's throwing out all these ideas and these concepts and insights to people. He's throwing out what is can be very challenging teachings to the people and what they understood and accepted as the norm and how they understood things at the time. He's throwing out all this like far out, wow, like huge, you know, shift in concepts, a whole nother world. Wow, it could be this way, but that would mean we would have to change. We'd have to change from what we would believe before, how we practiced everything. I'm attached to my understanding. I've built my identity. My whole personality is based on the understanding of this. You know, it's not easy for some people to accept. For one thing, some people could not intellectually comprehend what he was talking about and what he was trying to say. Others didn't want to believe. They didn't want to hear that truth. It was inconvenient for them. It didn't reflect back to them what they wanted to be justified in themselves, right? Some people were waiting for a Messiah to come that was going to raise up an army and annihilate the enemy. And that just wasn't the case. And it never will be. It's not the case now. And they're still acting like, well, the first time Jesus was here, it was about mercy and redemption. Now it's about annihilating our enemy. Like, when I see clips of these pastors saying this shit, and like they are about to, I don't know, have a stroke, and they're so bloodthirsty and violent, it's just fucking, it's little fish. It's little fish, garbage to be thrown back in the sea. They don't understand. This is seed falling in the thorns. So Jesus, the sower, went out and took a handful of seeds, these concepts, these teachings, these invitations for you to go deeper, for you to examine your heart, for you to change your heart, for you to expand your beliefs, for you to challenge your beliefs. What if you don't know what you think you know? What if you're wrong, right? The seeds are truth, wisdom, understanding. So when the seeds are scattered and some fall on the road and the birds came out and pecked them away, that was like totally went over their head. The seeds didn't land, they didn't take root, the birds came and got them. Like it's totally like the information is wasted. Like totally glazed over. We don't know what you're saying. Why are you saying this, Jesus? like sometimes he would just flat out say something straight up to people and they'd still be like, what do you mean? Like he was talking to Nicodemus, teacher of teachers, and he's telling them like, in order for a man to be like a full human, like awaken his divinity, he's got to be completely like die and be reborn again. And they can't understand that means like figuratively, like you need to die and be like reborn, a new creature, like with a whole new concept, and be a whole different person, and just consider your life starting over from scratch and see everything different from here. You know what they thought? The Pharisees, the teachers that taught everyone else, the wise people who were in charge of the temple, they were like, what do you mean, Jesus? Do you mean we have to go back into our mothers and be born again? I don't think we'll fit. Like they were literally like so stupid sometimes. And so Jesus is like, okay, if I say this to you poetically, you guys are taking me too literally. If I say it literally to you, you act like you're not even speaking the same language. Like what? So this is seeds just falling on like no ears to hear. There's no vessel. I can't conceive what you're telling me. I don't get it. I don't get it. So those are the people that just don't understand. And then others fell on the rock, and they did not take root in the soil and did not produce heads of grain. So some fell on hard surfaces that just were like, I don't know. I don't think that I'm interested in this. I don't accept it. Like this is too hard for me to receive. Like I want to be in denial of this, because if I take this in and believe it, then that means that I'm not willing to do the work, and I'm going to have to feel guilty about the fact that I have heard the truth. And I can't really maintain plausible deniability anymore without lying. So those are the people that just like, I don't want to change. I'm not open to this. I don't want it. Like, I hear your words, but like, I'm not changed by them. I don't want to change. I don't have the desire to change. I'd rather stay stuck and stubborn in my own darkness. And I don't know, continually be abusive to myself and others. So like these are the people that just don't want to hear of it. In fact, like these would be like the Pharisees who want things to stay the same. Like they don't want to hear these new teachings, these new concepts. This doesn't like reinforce the narrative that they're already like, that's already keeping them going. Like we have a routine, okay? Like don't come and shake things up. Others fell on thorns, and they choked the seeds, and the worms devoured them. And so this is like the category of people that hear the message and they twist it and weaponize it so that it will reinforce what they want it to mean. Like the Judases of the world, who are convinced that their narrative is the one that's supposed to play out. And even Jesus is making mistakes. Somebody needs to remind Jesus that this is what we're all trying to do here. And all the rest of the disciples are like, Judas, like, don't you trust the Messiah has a plan that like you maybe don't understand? Like maybe you just misunderstood the point of why he was here. Like, does it ever occur to you? It never occurs to him. He's like, when's the war starting? And they're like, he's talked about is peace and forgiveness. Like what part of him is giving warmonger? Like, this is a good business opportunity. Like, you've completely missed the concept, Judas. And yet, there are so many Judases. It's like the whole world has been taken over by Judases. Like, the whole, dispensationalist movement of people who think that they're going to be like this, key player in the end times. And so they're trying to, enact, they're cosplaying the prophecies so that they'll happen, but it's like you're just putting on the costume, like it's on God's time. You're not controlling anything. So it's like people who twist the message to make it what they want it to mean. And it's been happening since the message started. Like as soon as Jesus was out of the picture, it was already being hijacked and spun. And so by the time that Rome had decided to adopt Christianity to keep people in control so that they wouldn't revolt, they were like, okay, we'll adopt Christianity to keep people under control, but we have to decide which gospels are going in and which ones aren't and which ones uphold the narrative. And many of the ones that were like discredited were like, oh, that's apocryphal, which means uncertain authorship or unlikely authorship, or they don't know who really wrote it. Well, as it turns out, most of the New Testament that was written by Paul, who was like this come along guy later, who was like, hey guys, 50 years later after Jesus was died and resurrected, I just randomly had a vision, and actually it contradicts a lot of what Jesus said. And, even though he died for his message like 50 years ago, he gave me a new gospel, and I've never studied with him. I've never met him. I never met any of the disciples. I've never met any of the apostles. I never saw any of the miracles. And I used to be a Pharisee who was actually persecuting Christians. But you can trust me, I had a vision. A lot of his gospels in the New Testament, it's like makes up most of the New Testament. There were 5 gospels. 2 of them were written by eyewitness accounts. So, or is it 4 gospels? So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, 4 gospels. 2 by eyewitnesses, 2 written later. So all the rest of the New Testament is like Paul. Hi, Paul. Everything everyone argues over, everything that makes life like shitty for women and not for men comes from Paul. All the things they want to cherry pick to like take other people's civil liberties away. It's like they twist shit Paul said. And Paul, it's like Paul doesn't even go here. Okay. Paul doesn't even go here. Does that explain it to anyone? Now, on top of Paul doesn't even go here, half of the things that are ascribed to Paul aren't believed to have even been written by Paul. Like, they've been disproven later to be apocryphal and very likely just like slipped in, put Paul's name on this. Paul was accepted into the group. We'll just say Paul wrote it. We'll say Paul wrote this. It'll be really helpful to keep everybody under control. So then religion gets hijacked again and again and again, always, to prop up authority. It's weaponized as a tool. It's weaponized as a tool for imperialism and colonialism, and to push forward the agenda of the patriarchy and the power dynamics and the paradigm. And then while the other teachings and the other gospels that taught about the direct relationship with God, spiritual healing, understanding visions and discerning, the Spirit's voice within, all of the things that actually liberate mankind and make us independent and not dependent on the temple system or going through the gatekeeper or having to go through the priest. All that stuff was destroyed and hidden and forbidden, right? They don't want you to read that, and they'll tell you, oh, what are you a witch, you demonic, we're gonna call you a heretic if you want to read all of that stuff, because that stuff is telling you how to get a one-on-one relationship with God, and it completely eradicates the need for them at all, right? So it undermines their authority and it makes them redundant. So this is why it's forbidden. So Jesus said, look, the sower went out, took a handful of seeds and scattered them. Some fell on the road and the birds came and pecked them up. Others fell on rock and they did not take root in the soil and did not produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns, and they choked the seeds, and the worms devoured them. And others fell on good soil, and it brought forth a good crop. It yielded 60 per measure and 120 per measure. So others fell on good soil. Soil is like limitless in its potential. It can grow anything. It can make anything. You can make anything from soil. It can become anything. It hasn't been it's a vehicle to produce. It's a creative medium, right? The soil has boundless potential. So good soil to receive the sower's seeds. It's like, oh, I have a vessel that is prepared and ready, not only willing to take in what I'm being taught. I'm humble, I'm hungry, I have humility, I'm curious, I have desire, I want to understand. I want the understanding to transform me from the inside. The fruits that the seed grows and bears is the fruits of the Spirit. It's understanding, it's having compassion, it's having kindness and being more patient. It's having a greater desire to share with others than it is to receive and take for the self alone. Right? So you are a vessel who actually wants to be perfected, who wants to become like Christ. That's the good soil. The good soil it latches onto the message and takes it in and remembers it and goes over it and over it and over it and wants to know, to understand deeper and deeper and deeper layers. Sorry, glitching. So then the 60, falls on good soil and it yields 60 per measure. 60, so 6 is the Sphirot that is, or the Sephirah that is, it's the plural versus the singular. Sephirah, singular. Sephirot is plural. So this is the Sphirot or Sephirah, or the dimension where Christ's consciousness dwells and emanates from. It is associated with the number 6. It's the 6th Sephirot. So this is where Christ's consciousness dwells and emanates from. Jesus of Nazareth was the chariot of this Sphirot, meaning that he was able to do the work in his lifetime and do an act of selflessness, so much so that he activated the powers through self-sacrifice, to activate the powers to open up the flow and the connection of the energy associated with this aspect of the Godhead with humanity. We are now able to draw from that light. So 6, having a 60 per measure is like saying you have tapped in to Christ consciousness through this. Having good soil, the seed landed and planted in you something that bore the fruit of Christ consciousness in you. So much so that 6 times 10, there are 10 dimensions on the tree of life. So that means that all dimensions have everything that came before them. So to say that you have 60 is the portion, would be like saying that you have the Christ consciousness, you have the lens of Christ consciousness, which has activated all of those other aspects and attributes of God within you. So it's like all 10 Sphirot, all 10 aspects of the Godhead have been activated in you and are coming through a fruition of embodiment through you, through your Christ consciousness. It's like a fullness, and it's like times 10, right? They're like to the power of 10, you did this, like you really did it. You did it like a super amount. And then to say that 120, it's like double that, it's like even more so. It's like the more saturated, like you've become super Christy in your Christ consciousness. Like it has grown in you and become a wildfire of like your fruits are expounding and they're producing more fruits. Like you're so fruitful in yourself that your change has become so evident in others that the way that you interact with people has a positive effect on their life. And then they are changed by meeting you, and that your consciousness has an influence on them and it rubs off on them, and then they become curious and the seed takes root in them. And then they start awakening Christ consciousness, and they start changing and they start behaving differently, and the people that they come in contact with, and they have an effect on them. And it evangelizes itself. It propagates itself, that seed of goodness, of love. It's contagious. It's so good that once you are in that kind of fulfillment and in that kind of consciousness, to go back into negativity feels awful. And so you're just like, wow, okay, all right, this feels good. I'm going to keep on going this way. And when you expose someone to that kind of freedom that comes from feeling the relief of grace, it's like, it's so much better. The other is not tempting anymore. So you just lost one for the other side and you gain one for the light, right? And so then we come down to portion 10. Jesus said, I have thrown fire upon the world, and look, I am watching it until it blazes. Now, fire is like a consuming desire, a fervor that's burning, a passion that's burning, but fire also consumes something so that it burns away and it is no more. Fire and ash. Abraham said, I am dirt and ash. Dirt meaning ash meaning that what I once was has been burned and is no more. And this ash is now just the powdery evidence of what was. There's no value in it. It just blows away. It's like silt in the air. But the dirt has all the potential of the universe in it. It has everything. I put a seed in this dirt and anything can grow from it. It's absolute pure potential. So when Jesus said, I have thrown a fire upon the world, not only is he talking about the kind of fervor and passion and desire that he's awakened in people to want to love your neighbor and to share and to be kind and to forgive and to be in togetherness and unity and like kumbaya. It sounds so much better than all of this other horrible crap, right? There's freaking arsenic in the candy and no cocoa powder in the chocolate anymore. This is bullshit, right? So Jesus has lit a fire upon the world. So it's like he has planted a seed that's taken root and people are excited and they're hopeful and they feel like their souls are redeemed and they feel like there's good news and relief and inner peace that they can finally come to. So that sets a fire of fervor and passion and desire for change and to spread this gospel and to spread the movement. But also the fire is burning away the past, a past that once you know something, you can't unknow it. And so Jesus left a mark that forever changed humankind, and nothing would ever be the same as it was again. Not ever. Even the people who chose to stay in that consciousness of the old world, it still wasn't the same for them either because they've heard otherwise. So he burned away what was old. And he's sitting there waiting for the fire to take hold, to completely eradicate what was and set a fire in a positive way of spreading the new thing that's starting. And so look, when you start a fire, especially if you're doing it with like a flint rock, and you're trying to get your fire going and all of your like dry stuff is just burning away, you're wanting the kindling to light, because then that kindling can light the bigger sticks and the bigger sticks can light the logs. So you kind of have to watch and make sure that fire is going to stay lit. You've got to encourage that fire, give it air. You might have to throw some more sparks on it again or grab some more dry stuff to get it started. So Jesus said, I have thrown fire upon the world, and look, I am watching until it blazes. Look, I have given you guys the message. I've given you the truth. Now let's see what you do with it. Is this going to take hold? Is this going to be passed down from generation to generation? Are you going to let it change you in your soul? How's the Tikkune Olam going to progress now? Are we making any headway? Has anything been revealed to you? I'm going to wait and see until it blazes, right? This thing has got to consume all of us. The righteous fire has to consume us by choice, or else other fire will consume us by trial and tribulation. Right? All right. Well, that was a real banger of an episode, guys. I feel the fire, feel the spirit moving. If I wasn't feeling stiff, I'd do a gospel run down my own hallway. That is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly energy oracle forecast, where we will just be taking a look at the week ahead to see what kind of energy and spiritual weather we will be living and moving and having our being in. Until then, may peace be with you. Ciao.